Okay, so we can start by offering prostrations to the Buddha, offering 3 prostrations to our precious gurus, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, 3 rare sublime ones. Om Namo Manju Shriye Namasu Shriye Namo Uttama Shriye Soham. Om Namo Manju Shriye Namasu Shriye Namo Uttama Shriye Soham. Om Namo Manju Shriye Namasu Shriye Namo Uttama Shriye Soham. Okay, please take a seat. Yeah, I was singing and then I thought, am I supposed to be singing? I'm not sure.
Well, it was an offering.
It was an offering?
Distance is good.
Yeah. Good morning, Florin. Okay, good morning, everybody in the Gongpa, everyone online. Here we are. I'm sort of quite chuffed that here we are for the last, shall we say, face-to-face, although that's a bit awkward to say, Zoom to Zoom, module of Discovering Buddhism. That some of you, we've shared this journey since June 2018, right? And typically, I normally say that comes in a future module, but that's getting challenging to say. Of course, there's more and more programs to do afterwards. But anyway, here we are for this module, the introduction to Tantra, just a little taster of the concepts and ideas and whys and wherefores. So before we engage with that, let's take a few moments of quiet contemplation, setting our motivation for being here. So first of all, just spending a few moments wherever you are, whether seated in a chair or couch or floor or whatever, just bringing your body to a state of balance and stability and allowing your mind to settle into that space, into the present moment. You know, we've done everything to get prepared for the teaching, so now we can just sort of settle in and let ourselves be immersed in the Dharma. So making sure you're relaxed, well grounded, in a state of comfort and ease. And then focusing on your breath, taking a series of cleansing breaths, you know, breathing in slowly, deeply, comfortably through the nostrils. And then holding the breath for a little while, but not letting it get uncomfortable, just holding your breath and then gently softening the abdomen and allowing the breath to just be expelled gently, naturally. And as you breathe in deeply, slowly through the nostrils, feel the air you're inhaling is vibrant, permeated by white light energy in the nature of clarity, loving kindness, compassion, and all the other qualities, all the positive qualities, which are the qualities that are innate to us, which are also the qualities of enlightenment of a Buddha. Really feel that energy deeply entering into permeating every aspect, every cell, every organ, every particle of your being, and loosening any blockages, dissolving any tightness, any restriction, any sleepiness, any confusion, any agitation. Any irritation, frustration, any other disturbing states of mind that might interfere with a clear, unimpeded energy, a flow of this energy. All of that dissolved by this gentle, radiant, white light energy permeating your whole being. And then anything disturbing your body, disturbing your mind, disturbing your presence, you can visualize as like dark fog or smoke or oily slicks or whatever, dissolve, sort of expelling with your breath out. So letting it go, letting it drift away like smoke from a chimney. And it doesn't pollute the air outside. It dissolves into nothingness. It does not exist anywhere. So continue breathing like that, breathing in the white, cleansing light energy and breathing out any confusion, any disturbing states of body and mind, any dark fogginess with the breath out, letting it go. Letting go any sense of heaviness of the body, solidity of the body. Breathing in and out this way, bringing in this cleansing white light energy. You can feel your body getting lighter and lighter in every sense of the word light. Becoming more spacious, like a body of light. Crystal clear. And your mind becoming clean, clear, spacious. Your awareness expanding, encompassing all beings everywhere. This powerful clarity, which is the mind's innate clarity, dwelling there. Continuing to dwell in this clarity, letting go of the conscious control of your breath, just allowing your breath to be in its natural rhythm. Simply attending to these feelings of sensations, experience, of clarity, lightness of being, weightlessness, light, joy, freedom. Maybe even bliss, blissful joy. Allow your mind to dwell in this experience of unfolding, of relaxation, of light, of joy, of bliss. And that all these experiences pervade each other, pervade your body, pervade your mind, pervade space. And think how very fortunate we are at the moment to be here, to engage in this discovery of Tantra, to have encountered the precious teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, even these, the secret teachings, or the uncommon teachings of the Buddha. What good fortune we have, which is no such word as luck. It's our ripening of our virtue that we've accumulated up until now that enables us to come together, to have this opportunity to be introduced to such a powerful method for arousing this innate, blissful, spacious clarity, unencumbered. The potentiality for our own enlightened consciousness, as explained in the teachings of Tantra of Shakyamuni Buddha. So as we go through this weekend and we listen to the teachings, we discuss, we reflect, we debate, we keep this motivation where we're not doing this just for ourselves, just as a matter of curiosity or so forth, but so that not bearing to see the suffering of sentient beings who think, you know, I must do whatever I can to realize my own fullest potential as swiftly as possible, because I can't bear to see the suffering of others. So our focus on others is what propels us on this path. Our wish for peace, happiness, and well-being for the fulfillment of all beings without exception. Cultivating the mind, the union of universal compassion, altruism, mind of enlightenment, and wisdom in sync with reality as it is, seeing clearly. This is the path of Tantra. Okay, with that rather ambitious motivation, we can relax slightly. Welcome to everyone who's joined us meantime. Welcome, what's your name?
Tajani?
Tajani, hi. If you haven't received emails, I'm not sure, because I don't remember that, we'll make sure I get your email to get the materials. Okay. Alrighty, so here we are, Introduction to Tantra. So we have the teaching sessions this weekend and discussion time as well. And then in November, we have the retreat weekend. And I'm just seeing if Venerable Gompo has joined us, because there's a little announcement. It's Venerable Gompo's birthday today, but he's not here yet. He's hoping to be here. Anyway, our dear Venerable Gompo was hoping to join us online this morning, and it's, yeah, it's his birthday today. And my other little announcement is Venerable Wongmo, who is here right in front of me here, is her birthday on Monday. So
It was Venerable Chokyi's birthday on Thursday.
So we're all Libran babies, and so we love balance, right? So we thought tomorrow at maybe at lunchtime. I was thinking afternoon tea, but then I was thinking I might be too rushed. I mean, I might be too rushed in terms of getting through the material. But, so anyway, those of us who are here at lunchtime tomorrow, I don't know if we can join people in virtually for a little celebration. We might be able to do something on somebody's phone. We'll see how we go. Okay, so we'll... happy birthday to everybody whose birthday, right? Okay. I don't know if it's anybody else's birthday, but they're the ones I know about. So I was thinking to sing happy birthday to Gompo La, but he isn't there. So we'll save that till he is. Maybe he'll be here tomorrow. He was hoping to join us for the mornings. He's got quite a busy schedule as well. All right. So those of you who did get the notes, I think you've received an outline. And then there's always the readings that we had. I sent out the readings to folks for the course readings, the ones by Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe. So the real go-to is Introduction to Tantra by Lama Yeshe. This is the real, a lot of the excerpts of the teachings are from this. Oh, or like this now, it's been repackaged, same material inside. So you might
Got a new introduction, I think.
find it like that. So anyway, this one's in the library. I mean, it's in the library.
Is it in the shop?
I'm not sure. I didn't check the shop. We can check that.
I think in the library, usually is.
So also, so that's really, you know, if you want to do subsequent teaching, that's really highly recommended, of course. And also this little introduction by Lama Yeshe in, there might be a bit much reflection, Essence of Tibetan Buddhism, which is one of the free books or freely offered books from Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. So you can get it at lamayeshe.com. We've got copies here in the Gompa, and we have a donation box if it goes to printing, reprinting oh, actually, I don't know what it goes to now. They've stopped printing. They're stopping printing Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archives. So, yeah.
Development of ebooks. And
there'll be a lot of ebooks,
stuff,
yeah.
that sort of
A lot of, because, you know, all the teaching. So it has a section, so it's only half the little book anyway, section Introduction to Tantra from Lama Yeshe as well. And I also sent you links to Lama Yeshe's teachings on Introduction to Tantra, as well as the what we normally watch together for DB, for Discovering Buddhism, the 26 minutes, less than half an hour clip on introduction of the concepts. So they're all for you to be able to follow up at your leisure. I also thought to mention, I mean, the section in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand is very short, and it's just a couple of pages. So we sometimes have that with a lam-rim presentation, Graduated Path to Enlightenment, and even though that includes Tantra, of course, that often that's not included. Like, for example, in the lam-rim outlines, which is the basis of the Kopan 1 month course, that in those outlines, I don't know, Leonie, whether, did you do Tantra? It comes afterwards because Rinpoche gives Vajra Sappho. Yeah, so it comes subsequently. So it's usually done like that, very briefly, but of course incorporated in the Discovering Buddhism. So here we are on the Mahayana path, the great scope, the great vehicle, Maha, great, Yana, vehicle. And within that, Vajrayana or Tantrayana or Mantrayana, same, right? So people think, oh, Tibet, everyone practices Vajrayana, Tantrayana, Mantrayana, the same, you know, Buddhism. And I guess one of the things that it was extensively preserved in Tibet, so that's been a great benefit, you know, of course. And of course, at the time of the Buddha too, as I mentioned in the little motivation, the time of the Buddha, this was passed on in secret. So sometimes it's called the secret path or the secret vehicle, right? We'll go a bit more about the meaning, or the whispered tradition, because the Buddha had the clairvoyance to see whose minds were ripe for this. So as we know, the Buddha taught, you know, the 3 turnings of the wheel, right? And in the different turnings, taught teachings that sometimes people may say, oh, that's contradictory. Nothing was contradictory in what the Buddha taught, because he had the skill to be able to teach according to the mental dispositions of the students. He could read everyone's mind and know, you know. So, so this is, you know, so for example, when the Buddha, the second turning of the wheel, you know, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. So we're familiar, some of us maybe, with the Heart Sutra, with the essence of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. So at the same time as the Buddha was teaching that, at the same time, manifesting as, you know, Buddha Vajradhara, the tantric equivalent of the Sutraya, so the Shakyamuni Buddha, that we associate, even though he taught all the teachings, we associate with the common path or the Sutrayana path. And then Tantrayana, Buddha Vajradhara, the big Buddha, who's mentioned in Foundation of All Good Qualities. I'll read those couple of verses. So at the same time as Buddha was teaching at Rajagriha in Bihar state, in Amravati, which is now the capital of Uttar Pradesh, right? Because they split Telangana, is it? And I know when I went there last time, it's like there's 2 states that were one before. And Hyderabad was the capital of Uttar Pradesh, but now Amravati is. It's amazing what they do. Now they say, oh, we're going to move the town. Like, how do you do that? But anyway, that's just a bit of trivia. Well, not if you're coming from that place. And so at the same time, the Buddha was teaching the Kalachakra Tantra at Amravati. So simultaneously. He had that capacity, right? Could emanate as many bodies as atoms of the world. And so we never know what's happening in other universes at the same time with Shakyamuni Buddha and, you know, and these great other Buddhas. But this is the Buddha that I guess we have a karmic connection with in this world system at this time. Okay, and who taught. So if we look at Foundation of All Good Qualities, so be referring to, so those of us who are here in the Gompa have their FPMT retreat prayer book, but you can find it in many places, fpmt.org, page 251. So out of these 14 verses, I'm not reading the whole thing, the Foundation of All Good Qualities, which is, you know, that 14-verse summary of the whole path to enlightenment, including the Tantra path. So having become, down towards those who have it here, towards the bottom of the page, having become a pure vessel by training in the general path. The general path is sutra, the sutra teachings. So this is, we sometimes say the paramita path when we're talking about, in terms of Mahayana, the Bodhisattva path, which those of you who are here for the bodhicitta module, how to develop bodhicitta, about, you know, how to train as a bodhisattva, or some of you I know are also joining in Geshe-la's teachings on bodhisattva's way of life. So training, this is all training in the general path, right? So the 6 perfections, for example, engaging in those vast, extensive deeds to countless great eons of that. So the general path, which is 3 countless great eons, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. So the Vajra, So Vajra means like it's called the swift method or the quick method or the lightning method. So Vajra represents indestructibility. So this is like, sometimes it's called the adamantine vehicle, diamond vehicle. So the Vajra, that's what it sort of represents. They say like a lightning bolt, but then which is the quick, but also like a diamond, we say adamantine vehicle, meaning diamond-like, is it? So indestructibility, but also we have like the Vajrakata Sutra, for example, so that it's so sharp it can cut through a diamond. So it's a very sharp, quick method, Tantra. As I said, because, you know, you can't bear to see the suffering of the world, which is the path of the Bodhisattva. You know, Chenrezig couldn't bear to see the suffering of the world out of infinite compassion, you know. And even after all those years, or I'm not sure, might have been eons, of Chenrezig checked up to see how it was going in the world. I mean, I don't know well, I do know what Chenrezig would say today, because His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you know, taking form in this world. And we do hear what he says, and it's pretty scary about the state of the world. Well, it's not scary. It is what it is, actually. And after all that time, the Compassion Buddha said, you know, was so distressed by seeing all the suffering in the world. His body split into 1,000 pieces, and then Amitabha up the top. I don't know if Amitabha, you can see Amitabha on the camera, but above is Amitabha, his guru. So in the Amitabha family, put him all back together. 1,000 arms. Now, the only reason you need 1,000 arms, well, there is a reason you need 1,000 arms. Maybe we get more and more closer to that reason. I mean, having as many bodies as atoms of the world would be quite efficient, wouldn't it? Wouldn't have to travel anywhere. Pop here and pop there. But the arms, and all the eyes in the arms as well, in the hands, is to be able to see the suffering of beings and to be able to help, you know, benefit. So it's like, of course, that's the aspiration of a bodhisattva, but taking the quick path is saying, I want to do that as swiftly as possible. Right. I can't bear another minute of seeing suffering, so I want to do quick. Of course, we don't do that without the foundation of the sutra path. It's not like you jump into the deep end of the pool and say, can I swim, you know, because you'll find out you'll drown. And this is what, there are many, many provisos about not engaging too soon, not engaging in Tantra practice until our mind is prepared for that. And that's why the Buddha taught it in secret, you know, to those whose minds were ready. These days, like I mentioned the Kala Chakra, and the Buddha teaching the Kala Chakra at Amravati. When I heard that His Holiness the Dalai Lama and was teaching the Kala Chakra, offering the Kala Chakra empowerment at Amravati, it's like beginning of 2006, I was like, I'm going. Because it was just too good, you know, where the Buddha taught. It's quite amazing. And I did. And I didn't know much about Tantra, but I'd been, you know, studying a little bit for a number of years. And, you know, there was a small group of us, and we did all our preparation and read everything we could and so forth, and got there. And there were people who just said, oh, I heard this was Lama given this empowerment. the Dalai Lama was going to be here, so I thought I'd just rock up, right? So there were 100,000 of us there. That was a small crowd. Sometimes I think last time in Bulgaria it was like 400,000. Anyway, so there were 100,000 people. And His Holiness at one point was questioned as to, you know, if the Buddha gave these empowerments in secret, why it was being given publicly like this to people whose minds were ready or not ready, mostly, for this. And His Holiness said, this is a practice for world peace. It's so desperately needed in the world these days. So you'd say, if we regard, as many of us do, His Holiness the Dalai Lama as the Buddha Chenrezig, you know, taking human form for our benefit. A Buddha knows what's needed, right? And this is the thing, you know, the Buddha said, check everything up, you know. The Buddha would love Zoom, I tell you. I mean, Dalai Lama loves Zoom, doesn't he? He says, I don't have to go far, I'm just in the next room and I just come and sit there. Zooming around the world without leaving home. Fantastic. Okay, so, so in these times of great degeneration, so at this time in the world, we need these strong methods. And even if people don't get the tantric, you know, don't actually get the, understand what they're receiving, it's having some benefit, right? It's having some benefit. Because I remember when we, at the beginning of those 10 days there in Amravati, maybe it was a couple of weeks, but 10 days of the teachings, and what do you call, is it in India, First Minister, or anyway, equivalent of the Premier of the state, said this many people chanting mantra in this area is going to transform our environment. I thought, wow, imagine the Premier of Queensland saying that. I couldn't, right? But here we are in India where the Buddha was, so it makes sense, right? And it makes sense that it's possible there. So the impact it has on the environment, the impact it has on the beings there. And of course, I went back to Amravati 2 years ago when we could still travel. It had transformed. There was some pretty amazing coffee shops. No. Anyway, in the long term. And actually I went with Geshe Sampton, who said, you know, we were standing there at the Buddha statue that at the time when I was there was still being constructed, and now it was constructed and you could go inside and there was like a museum. And Geshe, what he wanted to know was, where was the teaching ground where His Holiness taught? And we were directly opposite there. It was like, right here, Geshe, this is where His Holiness taught, gave the Kala Chakra empowerment in line with the Amravati Stupa where the Buddha gave the empowerment. So important. Okay. All right. So the Supreme Vajra vehicle, at that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I have become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. So this becomes a very important part. Of not only do we take vows, and indeed, if you took a highest yoga tantra, maybe I'll talk more about that tomorrow, empowerment, at that point, you take tantric vows, right? But also, whatever vows we've taken, whether we've taken the vows of individual liberation, Padamoksha vows when you take refuge, whatever vows we've taken, if you've taken bodhisattva vows, and then subsequently tantra vows. Actually, we'll talk more about that later. But that such an emphasis on protecting our vows, living in ethics, and not only living in the ethics, but as you take bodhisattva vows, I'm doing this. My whole purpose in life is to be a benefit to others. So then it makes sense to engage in Tantra practice because it's for the benefit of others. Of course, these days in the world, there's all sorts of contamination of everything, including an understanding of what Tantra is, you know. So I don't know if they still do those tantric sex weekends and all that sort of thing, but it's sort of like a pollution of what it's about. Well, it's not sort of, it is. So it's putting it in a very worldly context and taking it away from it being a very, powerful spiritual path, right? So, yeah, so a little bit of background. So, okay, so the word Tantra means continuum or continuity. This is the continuity of our mind, that at the moment we say that we have contaminated aggregates. What are the 5 aggregates? Our body, feelings, the sensations that we have, pleasant, unpleasant, indifferent, or neither, or neutral, sometimes we say. Discrimination, ability to discriminate objects, to discriminate perceived things. And all the other compositional factors, which is all the other stuff of the mind, basically. Composites of the mind, all our afflicted states of mind, all our positive states of mind, all our changeable states of mind, variable states of mind, and omnipresent states of mind, and consciousness itself. So at the moment, as unenlightened beings, speaking for myself, don't know about anybody else, they're contaminated, they're polluted. But as the Buddha said, that pollution is not in the nature of mind, so it can be eliminated. So this continuity, this continuum, is going from this samsaric suffering set of aggregates to the purity of the body and mind of a Buddha. So this is the continuity we're talking about. Of course, a body doesn't even last one life, does it? So it's not going to... Thankfully, my body of this life is not going to continue with me. I'm at that age where I can say safely, yep, I'll be trading it in. So it also, sometimes the word thread, but thread has that idea of continuity, so it can refer to the spiritual practices that we do set out in the Tantra Yana teachings of the Buddha, right? So we contrast Tantra, Mantra, Vajrayana with Sutra, which are the generally, in one way, we say the explicit teachings, although even there, you need interpretation of the teaching, especially when it gets to the wisdom teachings. So this becomes what is the causal path. So we talk about this graduated steps to enlightenment, step by step by step by step by step, isn't it? We're taking each graduated step that becomes the cause then, practice of purification and accumulation of merit. Of course, you do both of those in Tantra as well. So as Lama Yeshe said, as following in the tradition of Lama Tsongkhapa, we practice Sutra and Tantra together, even though in what we just read, it says, having trained in the general path, may I then, or common path, may I then train in the uncommon path. So it sort of says there's a sequence to this, but we actually do practice both together, right? Yes, we need the foundations, and we'll get onto the foundations soon, that are very much based in the common path, the Sutrayana path, and particularly in the Mahayana Sutra path. Okay, so Tantra is part of the Mahayana of tradition of Buddhism. In other words, your motivation is to become a Buddha. So 2 purposes, isn't it? I want to become a Buddha, but I don't want to become a Buddha to hang up a shingle and say, oh, I'm a Buddha, right? It's not at all about ourselves in a way, but I want to do that to benefit others. And the way I can ultimately benefit others, yes, I can benefit others right now. And I hope, you know, I intend to every day, you know, every moment of the day, I hope to. But, you know, at times, not so, quite so easy. I forget. But to actually have uncontrived bodhicitta conjoined with a mind understanding reality as it is, totally in sync with reality, that I can really, truly, and then having the power to be able to benefit others, to emanate many bodies and so forth. So even we talked about a little bit on the bodhisattva grounds, you know, as you work up the bodhisattva grounds, and the first ground, you can emanate 100 bodies in 100 world systems, and so you can do a lot more than we can with one body, right? And then second round, 1,000 bodies, and it just multiplies. But at the time, you know, so as a Buddha, so the Buddha, as we looked at when we looked at refuge, the unique activities, the Buddha is always in meditative equipoise on emptiness, and at the same time, always benefiting others, engaging in enlightened activities. So only a Buddha can do that, right? So this is what we want. This is what we're aiming for. So the sutra path is called the causal path because it's a gradual unfolding process, cleansing our mind, purifying our mind of all the faults, all the limitations, we say obscurations of the mind, and developing in their place all our positive qualities. So it's like getting rid of the weeds of the garden so the flowers can grow, isn't it? You know, that's the analogy. So that all our positive qualities, why? Because it's like the H2O of our mind polluted by all these faults, limitations, which are largely self-imposed. I can't is one of them, strong one. Or I don't want to get out of bed, and you know, whatever. So forms of laziness and other things, mainly laziness. But all our anger, all our, you know, aversion energy, all our attachment, desire energy, and so forth, we're actually focusing in the sutra path of cleansing those from the mind, purifying those in the mind, so our positive qualities can flourish more and more because they're innate to us. But at the same time, we deliberately cultivate love, compassion. And indeed, we do use these meditational deities for that, you know, these different aspects of the Buddha. We'll talk more about that later. So it's a gradual, causal approach to enlightenment. And Tantrayana is, as I said, the swift method. I think Lama Yeshe called it the jet plane to enlightenment. I don't know what we say now. Still jet plane? Rocket? Very fast train?
Bullet train.
Bullet train, swift method, right, to enlightenment. Of course, as Lama Tsongkhapa said, as Lama Yeshe says, you don't ignore the sutra path. You don't say, oh, that's, you know, and, you know, oh, that's, I don't need to do that because I'm a tantric practitioner. I'm a yogi, I'm a whatever. That's a complete non-understanding, no foundation. You've got to have foundation. Okay, so we do that. But where it differs, and this is why it's the swift path, right now, even with our contaminated mind, we say it's the resultant path. We're taking the result into the path. That means, what is the result? What is my goal? My goal is Buddhahood. So right now, engaging in practices through Tantra, and there are different levels of Tantra, of focusing on those qualities within us, tapping into our Buddha nature, our Buddha potential, and right now engaging in those, in the path, even though I'm not enlightened, but thinking, how can I think, act, speak now as if I were a Buddha? I remember somebody saying, one time when there was a difficult situation. Now, what would Lama Zopa do in this situation? So thinking of our holy gurus and what they would do and wanting to enact that is more in sync with taking the result into the path. I'm not there yet, but what would they do? I do like them. What would the Buddha do? And so forth. And of course, according to our capacity, but acting as if we're a fully enlightened Buddha. And this is where we do have to have a very stable mind, because otherwise you could go crazy. And that's can happen. You know, that people, because their mind isn't prepared for it, and they engage in this in a way that is, without foundation. So even though we're a Tibetan Buddhist center, it's not like you'll walk in day one and says, okay, we're going to engage in Tantra now. You know, as you can see with this course, you know, it's come at the end, not at the beginning, right? So then, because we have to know, if we want to act as if we're a Buddha, we have to know what a Buddha is, isn't it? So, Sangye, a Buddha is that being who has completely purified, eliminated all these polluted states of mind, or these obscurations of the mind, and not only the afflictive obscurations, but also the knowledge obscurations, which is the very subtle imprints of the mind. When we're looking at the emptiness module, last module, wisdom of emptiness, of even seeing appearances, but knowing my mind cheats me and that things aren't existing in the way I think they are. So having that mind, right? We talked about that, those who were here for the last module. The mind that, so that the subtle, we call it knowledge obscurations, or obscurations to omniscience, in other words, to Buddhahood, that we actually completely eliminate on this Tantrayana path, that are like the very, very subtle grasping of the mind at true appearances. So we have to get rid of that, so that cleansing the mind further and further, so that we know that things are not as they appear to be. So you can see it appearing, but no, it is not as it appears to my mind, without having to think about it, without having, like at the moment, we have to do a lot of hard meditation, isn't it? It really stretches the mind. You know, oh, now what's those 4 points? Or, oh, Chandrakirti, 7 points. Oh my God, how can I remember all of those? What am I supposed to be meditating on next, you know? And we have to do it over and over again. And we have to do it over and over again until... So it's said that in your meditation on emptiness, the strength of that is indicated by, after meditation, how long you can hold that mind that sees that things are not as they appear to be. If it's a nanosecond, a bit more meditation to do. Because you sort of have a sense of that. But then straight away, the grasping mind comes in. Okay. All right, so the tantric path is the most powerful way of bringing those future results of enlightenment, of full awakening, fully awake, which is what a Buddha is. You know, when the Buddha, arose from that, from his meditation of the, Bogaya, Bodhi tree, having become fully enlightened, and the first person he encountered said, "What are you?" He said, "I'm fully awake." Fully awake, that's what a Buddha means. Bodhi means. Bodhicitta, the mind, so the awakening mind of being fully awake, being a Buddha. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit introduction. Of course, this is a very vast, profound topic, and there are different levels of Tantra, as I said. That's why, you know, without even having a tantric empowerment, there are texts and scriptures and so forth that you can read. I mean, it's a little bit awkward because there's things you can say and things you can't say, but you know, generally, and I hope it still is true, that at the front of the book, you know, I remember one time a student ringing me, they were on a bus and said, I just opened this book and it says, don't read if you don't have the empowerment. Can I read it? Well, no, it says don't read if you don't have the empowerment. Because I knew she didn't have the empowerment, right? Okay. But that's what she was, at least was checking, right? Some people might read that and then just keep reading anyway. But it's very interesting these days because there's so much on the internet as well. And this is where we have to be very careful that the sources are accurate. I mean, for anything, for any of the Dharma teaching, well, for anything in life, but particularly when it comes to this path, you know, the authentic sources and so forth. So anyway, of course, you know, these introductory books. So here in the library, you know, we have different sections for Tantra. And generally, when you get to highest yoga Tantra, so there's 4 different levels we'll talk about later, then, you know, there are ones that I think if Venerable Yangshan doesn't mind me saying, she goes, oh, that secret squirrel business.
No, I don't.
It's cute. I like that phrase. Secret squirrel business. Yeah.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Is it? Rocky and, I wouldn't even know who Rocky and Bullwinkle are. That's okay. I don't need to know, right? Okay. So, all right then. So then there are prerequisites for this. And this is where it's very, very important that we understand that the prerequisites for Tantra are the 3 principles of the path, the 3 principal aspects of the path. Now, it says to have an understanding of that, whether you have a complete and fully, you know, realized understanding, maybe not. But we've got to have a working hypothesis of these and have an understanding and, you know, be engaging in those practices, which also makes sense that that we have to take time to come to the Tantra path, because we have to have this foundation on the basis of, you know, the small scope, the intermediate scope, and the common great scope practices, all those methods. So there we're looking at the mind of renunciation or definite emergence. Those of you, when we were doing the module on samsara and nirvana, we looked at this in a little bit more depth. But again, you can turn, those who have the book, you know, the 3 principal aspects of the path, nicely summarized here by Lama Tsongkhapa, 253, I think. Yeah, so if you turn to 254, the definition of having generated this mind of definite emergence of genuine renunciation is in verse 5. When having trained in that way, there is no arising for even a second of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence. Not even 1 second. Attraction to, I have to right now announce attraction to coffee because there's no barista here today for those who are here in the Gongpa. So Graham's having an attraction to coffee meltdown. No, not really. I'm just using as an example. There is chai though. So apparently your attraction to chai will be fulfilled, or if you wish. But this is like, you can take it or leave it, but you're not attached to that being the source of all my happiness. So it's not about, renunciation isn't about giving away all your stuff. It's about giving away the attraction to 8 worldly concerns. And I think some of our political leaders have to do a lot of this, particularly recently, it would seem. Because if you are concerned about what people think of you, it's a hard gig, it seems to be. And I don't want to get into politics. Well, I'm not in politics. I'm not going to get into politics. But to think, I'm doing this for the greater good, regardless of what people think of me, because I know this is the path to follow. And the further we go along this, the harder that is. You get more and more out of step with worldly concern. So giving up the 8 worldly concerns. So what are our worldly concerns? We want people to think good of us, don't we? We want to have a good reputation. We can have a meltdown if anyone criticizes us for a nanosecond. We want pleasant sensations, pleasant sounds, pleasant everything. Well, actually in the Tantra parts it says, go for it. Just make it happen, right? Okay. You can do that in the Tantra part. Good. You can, transform that into the path. So it's not saying, in the Tantra path, it's not saying, it's using that energy, but in a way that is coupled with an understanding of emptiness. So a little bit different. So no arising for even a second of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence. So we're not just caught up in this life, but in having any life, having any body. So, the reason I have a suffering body, attraction to the body. I was then zapping into the mummy's womb, apparently, because I was just so attracted to having, apparently, this body. Well, at least it served me well and been a good basis for Dharma practice, so it wasn't too bad. Okay. But that attachment to our body, our ideas, our anything, and the attraction to gain, to wealth, they're all the things of this life, but even of any life. So is we already, this is the basis for our freedom, our liberation from a cycle of suffering existence over and over again. And say, yeah, I want to be rid of the suffering, but do I want to actually do the hard yards? Do I have that much desire for definite emergence? Okay, so Lama Yeshe in the introduction to Tantra causes the emerging. So these 3 principles of the path, that we call renunciation, bodhicitta, right view, and indeed that's what, how it's presented in the 3 principal aspects of the path of Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Yeshe presented that in Intro to Tantra, calling it emerging, opening, and dissolving. So it makes sense, right, when you understand. So he's taking it in a very tantric approach. So that, why is renunciation called emerging? Because we're emerging from, that wish to emerge from samsara, from this suffering cyclic existence, which is our mind that creates that. So on the basis of the same mind, we can experience liberation from that. We can emerge from that, emerge from the state that is characterized by suffering, by dissatisfaction, over and over again, whatever body we take, whatever environment we live in, and so forth. From the cycle of birth, which inevitably leads to death, and in between, aging, sickness. So following in the presentation that the Buddha laid out in his life, where he abandoned all of that, he observed those as the nature of existence, of samsaric existence, and also was able to see, have a vision of something greater. So at the time he had a vision of a spiritual seeker, or he encountered a spiritual seeker, you know, when he snuck out of the palace and so forth. And realizing there's something there. This is the way to go forward. So as long as we're trapped in seeing this world as our pleasure park, as it says in the Lama Chöpa, in Guru Yoga, we're going to stay trapped. So we need to have this definite, strong sense of renunciation, wish to emerge from all of that. Because it's not this, hopefully it's not the suffering that hooks us in, but we are wrong in understanding, in our understanding about what is a cause of happiness. As I've said, it's not the chocolate cake. Could be the cheesecake.
With no sugar.
With no sugar.
And no gluten.
And no gluten.
And no chocolate.
And no chocolate, yeah.
No arms.
No arms.
Almonds.
Okay, so the spiritual path starts when we make this definite decision. So this precipitates us onto this. Yep, definitely want out of here, right? The only thing meaningful to me in this life is to do whatever I can to be liberated from this recurring pattern of dissatisfaction over and over and over again, all right? So that's the emerging. And then the opening is the mind of bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, the mind, awakening mind of a Buddha that says, I can't just do this for myself alone. That's all very nice, but what about all the rest of the beings who are still stuck there? So making that very spacious, open determination, I must, you know, achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all these beings, that I want, instead of spending lifetime after lifetime, done enough of it already, just looking after number one, of cherishing others even more than myself, and developing the capacity to be able to do more and more, practicing the 6 perfections, you know, practicing, you know, cultivating more and more our perfection, our capacity of generosity of, you know, giving protection, giving material things, material needs, medicines, food, whatever, shelter, giving the Dharma in whatever capacity we have to give that, whether it's sponsoring, you know, more books for Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archives or whatever, whichever way that we can do that, letting people know there's a Dharma Center, there's a course on, all of this is giving of the Dharma, right? So as when we were looking at the 6 professions previously, that it's the wish to give, the wish to give to others rather than spending lifetime after lifetime saying, what can I get out of this? Like the bush turkey comes to my door every morning and what have you got for me? What have you got for me? Isn't it? Not, how can I help you? Well, so far, the bush turkey has not said, how can I help you?
And wouldn't we be astonished if it did?
And wouldn't we be astonished if it did? So they're rather limited in their capacity.
Sometimes I change that. See, when the turkey moves the leaves, I actually see that as he's benefiting me sometimes, because sometimes he does.
So Leonie does gardening here, and she sees that sometimes the bush turkey, probably inadvertently by moving the leaves, actually benefits the gardener.
But I thank it because I think, no, and I put it,
thank you.
and change it and say, thank you, you've done that for everybody. Well, that's it. It's moved it and saved me clearing the garden.
Okay, so all of this, you know, the practice of renunciation, the practice of bodhicitta, all on also fundamental understanding of karma, that as you know, as we turn our mind towards others, instead of, we're transforming our anger into love. We're transforming the fact that we're suffering into compassion for others who are suffering. So we're using the mind training, which is all of the Buddhist teachings in mind training, to transform. And Tantra takes this even further in terms of transformation, not only transforming this into a positive quality, but even transforming that into the body of Chenrezig, ultimate compassion, you know, bringing that into the path. So, because an understanding of karma would say, as long as I'm trapped in that anger, I'm going to create more and more causes for my suffering. So that's blown my idea of renunciation out of the water, because I'm going backwards. So, and it is very, very hard to do. You know, there's time, as I mentioned, you know, His Holiness getting very more urgent about, you know, even now, I think Chenrezig Empowerment earlier this year, we had online on Zoom. It used to be you had to be face to face in the same room, not face to face, but in the same physical environment as the Vajra master, as we call the person giving the empowerment, to be able to actually get that empowerment. But tell that to a Buddha knows who, you know, it's like, if you, with a mind, a concentrated mind. So I think, how many times has His Holiness given Bodhisattva vows on, 4, thank you, this year?
Well, since May.
Since May. Wow. So, and then the Chenrezig Empowerment as well. Now, apparently 8 million people tuned into that. Did 8 million people receive the empowerment? Probably not. Did they get a happy mind? Probably. For how long? All depends. You know, so we talk about blessings for the mind and so forth. So it's, yeah. Anyway, so the practice of the Bodhisattva path is cultivating that positive energy in our own mind, our huge positive motivation for the benefit of all beings without exception, already a hard task. But that makes our mind so vast, so that gives us incredible power. So the more we gradually develop our capacity, this opening, so you can see in so many ways, it's, as Lama Yeshe said, opening, you know, the mind of bodhicitta. Our mind becomes very spacious. And of course we have big love cafe, big love, everything big, right? Lama Yeshe was always, think big. In other words, make your mind spacious. Don't have these narrow, neurotic self-limitations, because we've never got us anywhere except more samsara, more suffering. Okay, so the mind of bodhicitta, the enlightened mind, the enlightening mind, so Lama Yeshe said that, yes, we generally, the presentation is, we see this as a prerequisite for the practice of Tantra. But you can also see it the other way around, and this is where the practice together, that Tantra itself being a prerequisite for being able to expand our mind, our capacity to benefit others in the speediest way possible. So it can work both ways. Right?
Excuse me.
Yes.
You're talking about the emerging,
yes,
opening, and dissolving. You didn't touch the dissolving part.
I haven't got to dissolving yet.
Okay.
That comes next. You're right on, Flora. Yeah, I haven't got there yet, isn't it? Okay, so so we've got those two. So the dissolving aspect, or the right view, correct view, or generally we say the view or the realization of wisdom, realizing emptiness, in other words, realizing the inherently dependent nature of things. one way of saying. So in the three principal aspects of the path, page 255, verse 9, without the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, even though you have generated renunciation and the mind of enlightenment, so the first two principles, you cannot cut the root of circling, in other words, samsara. Therefore, attempt the method to realize dependent arising. So this is like realizing conventional truth, ultimate truth simultaneously is what is required. Because in verse 12 it says, the definition of having completed the analysis of the right view, if these two realizations happen simultaneously without alternation. So at the moment, we either focus on the ultimate nature of things, and conclusion, everything's a dependent arising, or we focus on the, analysis of dependent arising, the king of reasoning, dependent origination, conclusion, everything's empty of inherent existence. So we alternate. But when we get to the point of no alternation, and that you see from merely seeing dependent arising as completely unbetraying, the definite ascertainment comes that completely destroys the way all objects are apprehended as truly existent. So this is when you no longer believe those appearances as they appear. You know they don't exist as they appear. At that time, the analysis of the ultimate view is complete. Yes?
Is that where you hear the term non-duality?
Yes, there's many uses of the term non-duality. So we can say there's a Sutrayana approach, non-duality, which that would be.
Yeah.
And then in Tantra, it's a different aspect, because in Tantra, that wisdom realizing emptiness and the ultimate bodhicitta, so we talk about, see, this is where I'm not sure what words I can use, bliss and emptiness, let's just say. Bliss and emptiness, these two conjoined in the one single consciousness. So this is what makes it a very swift path, because yes, we have all these methods and we use all these deities and so forth, but it's having that very subtle, the most subtle mind of conjoining the subtle body and the subtle mind energies. And that's, we talk about the combination bliss and emptiness, or the illusory body and the clear light mind, right? On the most subtle level, non-dual. Okay.
I think Lama Yeshe in a video introduction to Tantra, he talks about totality to reach that.
Totality, yes. So non-duality, totality, yes. Lama Yeshe uses the word totality, which is quite nice. It's like completion, which it is, the ultimate, like there are two stages in it that talk about, the two stages of Tantra, the generation stage and completion stage. Completion stage is when you achieved it, right? Okay, so, yes. So the wisdom of emptiness, which is, and when we see Shakyamuni Buddha, yes, we can still see Shakyamuni Buddha up here, there. It's always confusing. I look here, see, nothing exists as it appears, because I look at this and it's completely different to how it exists, and how it appears is different. It's great. It's great teaching on emptiness. Zoom is a great teaching on emptiness. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, oh, yes, what I meant to say. The Buddha. So we generally see the Buddha seated on a lotus, a sun cushion, and a moon cushion, or it can be the other way around, moon cushion and sun cushion. But those three, these are the three principal aspects of the path in this. And different, you know, the lotus represents different things at different times. But for this, the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha represents, and those three, the lotus represents that mind of definite emergence of renunciation. It's indicating the Buddha has achieved all of these. You know, here you have literally the, you know, the Buddha, the deity, right, on the foundation of the three principal aspects of the path. It tells you what to do, right? So you have the mind of renunciation. Why a lotus? Because as we say, a lotus born out of the mud, but the mud doesn't stick. The mud being all our contaminated aggregates, all our confused minds, all our delusions, or our afflicted states of mind, our polluted states of mind, and so forth. In other words, the stuff of samsara, the causes of suffering. And so, but by using that, and what comes is the lotus, purity, right? So we use that mud of our life as the grist for the mill to attain that purity, which is innate. And then we have the sun cushion representing the wisdom aspect, because what happens when the sun comes out? We see clearly, you know, or we turn on the light, we see clearly. So that's the wisdom of seeing things clearly, precisely as they are, not as our mind made up, not as in the middle of the night when the possum's on the roof and you think there's world war going on because your mind's elaborated on top of what is there, what isn't there. It's just, yeah, that was a possum. So you've got this pure, uncontaminated mind directly in sync with reality, and the moon cushion representing bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, because the moon is seen as having a cooling effect on the mind. You know, and in the context of the Dharma, then that's like cooling our self-grasping mind, all our afflictions that disturb the mind or get pacified in that process. And when we're filled with compassion, our heart just naturally flows out towards others, so that then we have a cooling impact flowing out towards others, you know, cooling influence, calming influence on others. Even you're not aware of it, you know. Even you're not aware of it. Even you're not necessarily experiencing that internally. I was thinking about one time when I went to one prison, and the first guy who came up to me said, "Oh, you look so peaceful." And I just thought, I better not open my mouth. I'll stick with that. Quit while you're ahead, you know. I was looking at peaceful. So that by association, you have that impact on others. Or by our practice, as we said, you know, you chant Om Mani Padme Hum. Or as that minister said in Amravati, you know, the chief minister, I think the chief minister, anyone know what they're called? Said, you know, the force of mantra will transform the environment, and indeed it does transform the environment. You know, why are people attracted to places where people have practiced? Because it's a feel-good energy. Why are people attracted to the Dalai Lama? He feels good, right? Even online. Have you noticed how youthful he looks for 85? His face seems to get younger and younger.
You think he has plastic surgery, like looks like?
No, I think
It
he's
looks
got.
like he has, but he hasn't.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Apparently, someone said, "Oh, you look so young for 85," and he said, "I'm much younger inside."
Because he still has that childlike sense of joy.
Oh, total.
To do with his
Yep.
purity.
Total joy. Total joy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So currently, we have what we think is an accurate picture of ourselves. And we think we have an accurate picture of reality, and we grasp at that. But this is all fundamentally mistaken because our consciousness is mistaken. You know, we get things wrong. And we know that because our mind gets disturbed. And the more disturbed our mind gets, the more wrong we are, right? And then we put it out there to others and we cause conflict. So this ignorance that pervades our mind, that we at that very subtle innate level we're going to have as long as we're in samsara, the innate self-grasping. It's sort of like you're born with it, you know. When I was a young Catholic kid, they said you were born with original sin, which I thought was incredibly unfair. But when you encounter Buddhism and it says you're born with innate self-grasping, it's true, right? So there is something innate that's our worst enemy. Grasping at having this inherently existent self that we then get deluded about, puff up and, you know, create all stories about. And we have then this dualistic view. So the more we clarify that, the more we do come to this non-dual view or sense of totality. When we realize that everything's a product of the mind, we can create whatever world we want. This is why we can engage in Tantra. And in fact, this is the work of engaging in Tantra. It's transforming the environment, transforming our own mind, transforming our speech, transforming absolutely everything into purity. Because we can. And then our experience of that becomes totally different. Of everything becomes totally different. Just think when we make offerings and, you know, when we offer food and so forth, food and drink, and we visualize it as delicious nectar, and then you eat or drink it afterwards, I tell you it's value added, and all you've done is thought it's delicious nectar, and all of a sudden it is. I mean, it's probably already delicious nectar, but, you know, even more, isn't it? Enhanced. So this is what we're practicing by bringing the result into the path, bringing out our best self, because we spend so much time bringing ourselves down, limiting our capacity. So if nothing else, this is enhancing and quite profoundly our capacities, because our capacities for love, compassion, for wisdom, for patience, for virtue is unlimited and only ever grows and grows the more we do. I mean, those of you who've been engaging in Dharma practice for a while, you probably know this for your own, you know, oh, my relationship's getting better, or, you know, someone's nodding. Only because he has shared this a few times already. Why? Because you've done some work on yourself, right?
Inspired.
It's only getting better.
It's only getting better. And we do need, and it inspires others, and indeed we do need inspiration. So, lost where I'm supposed to be up to. Okay. So we, so 3 principal aspects of the path. That's our foundation. I've got to find my outline again. Right. Okay, so cultivating this sense of totality or wholeness, rather than looking at a deficit model of ourselves, let's come from an asset model of ourselves, because we have worked hard in previous lives to get this precious human rebirth on the basis of understanding this is how we progress on the spiritual path, having engaged in Dharma practice in the path, having engaged in pure ethics on the basis of having taken vows and kept vows, kept our pledges, kept our samaya, and we're only talking past lives at this point. And then having made stainless prayers, you know, may I meet with a precious Mahayana guru, you know, authentic path. And we've engaged with that. We haven't gone down the wrong path. We've engaged with authentic teachings that connect us to the Buddha lineage, not only the Buddha lineage, the Mahayana Buddha lineage. All our precious lamas, I'm looking at the field of merit, Lama Tsongkhapa's field of merit here. So, so we use these meditational deities, these statues, these tankas, satsas, these images are our meditational guides. They're tips that tell us, if we look at Shakyamuni Buddha, the representation of Shakyamuni Buddha here, that's not how Prince Siddhartha looked walking around the streets of Lumbini or Bihar state, you know, or so forth. That's not how he looked. It's representing each one of those elements. So we talk about the 32 major marks and the 80 minor signs of a Buddha. All of these deities represent those, have those, which is transforming the impurities of, on the basis of this body, into a pure form of a Buddha. So it's taking each one of our contaminated aspects and transforming those into purity, or taking the resultant path of bringing that into our life right now. So all of these images that we use, you know, sacred images, enlightened images, is to help us to tap into our innate qualities. That's why we have them. I mean, already, I think everybody's probably engaged in meditations on Shakyamuni Buddha, on Chenrezig, on Tara, and so forth. Familiarity with that to some extent. It's awakening our own innate positive qualities very powerfully, even more so in Tantra. So it provides very powerful methods for getting in touch with our really essential wholeness already, you know, and this tantric art represents that. So, for example, John Landau and Andy Weber, a book, Enlightened Beings, very good, you know, and explaining what every aspect represents. So it's really important to understand every aspect, to contemplate every aspect, because they're the aspects that we're awakening within ourselves. So so very often you might see, I think it's not that one there. Okay, you see them, not these ones here, because we usually have it hidden over unless you've taken the empowerment. But for example, Vajrasattva practice, the Vajrasattva practice that those of you who've been doing Discovering Buddhism, that you've been introduced to, shows Vajrasattva and Wisdom Mother together. We say in the consult, is that in the picture of that book, or is that a... It's on here on this one, but it's very subtle. It's just their heads. No, that's got the Vajra. And why? And you know, people say, oh, you know, if people don't have the empowerment, they can't see that. But Lama Yeshe introduced this, which is why this within our lineage is the Vajrasattva practice. Of course, if you take a Haruka Vajrasattva empowerment, there's a whole lot of other meditations you can do and understanding that you gather. But very often in tantric practice, it'll have it looking like engaging in sexual union. As I said, this is why people get it wrong and think it's about sex. It's got nothing to do with that. So the male aspect, representing the method side, we can say engaging in the bodhicitta side, but we can say the method side, but also through that engaging in all these activities is the cause for the pure body of a Buddha. And then the female side is the wisdom aspect. You know, Prajnaparamita, the mother of perfection of wisdom. The female aspect, the wisdom side, is the basis for the Dharmakaya, the truth body or the wisdom body, which is the mind of the Buddha. So it's the two conjoined. So unless we understand what this represents, you can see how people will get it wrong. So hence they're closed up, often to see, not to see. Or we see, you know, here we say Chenrezig, peaceful form. You know, we like the idea of Chenrezig, infinite compassion, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you know, oozing compassion towards all, being a vehicle of peace and kindness and so forth. But we can also have wrathful aspect, which is like, see, I look at Zambala over here and I think, oh yeah, Zambala's nice. But then the school kids come in, why is he angry? I thought Buddhas weren't angry. And you see, so you could think, oh, I thought Buddhas were all just, you know, really nice and peaceful. And why do we have wrathful aspect? Is because sometimes we need very strong methods, very powerful methods. So Yamataka, for example, wrathful aspect of Manjushri, of wisdom. You know, Manjushri means gentle voice. Well, Yamataka is the wrathful aspect of that. Maybe not so gentle. Because we need those, we need, you know, both aspects. They have different functions. All right. So I just realized it's probably time to take a break. Okay, shall we take a break here, folks? And maybe when we come back, if we want to start with some questions, otherwise we'll go on with the next installment. What do we have to announce at the break time? That normally I'd say to everyone on Zoom, we'll leave the mics open, so to speak, and everyone can chat amongst yourselves if you wish. But I think this time we can't do that, right?
We're just going to end the meeting.
We're going to end the
We
meeting.
just have to come back in because we have to record it and we have to just save it.
Because today, yes, because we couldn't, because it's the prayer-a-thon day. Saturday's our prayer-a-thon day. So we can't go directly to YouTube at the moment.
That's right.
And so this session's been recorded and it subsequently will go on YouTube. So that's why we're going to end the online meeting. When I say we, Leonie.
It's just for a technical thing.
For technical side. So go make yourself a cuppa and see you at 11.
Yeah, and just log back in when we're...
And just log back in, okay? And everyone here can go and get chai and cake or tea.
If there's anyone